Okay, this lesson is going to be on significant figures, and we are just going to write sig figs because that's easier. So significant figures measure the degree of confidence of a measurement. And that means that whenever you make a measurement, whenever you're measuring length or mass or anything like that, you need to include all of the known digits plus one estimated digit. Okay, so what that looks like is, for example, if you had a meter stick and all it was labeled was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, again, this is a meter stick. So all of these measurements are in meters. And let's say that you had a stick that was this long. Okay, and I asked you to tell me how long that stick was. You would probably say that that stick was 3.5 meters long. Okay, so again, this is your measurement, and so what you've done here is you've included all of your known digits. Now 3 is a known digit, meaning that you know it is at least 3 meters long, and one estimated digit. This is your estimated digit. Okay, so from here to here, you have estimated that it is about 0.5 meters. It's about halfway from 3 to 4. Okay, so this estimated digit can vary depending on who you ask. Let's say that I thought it was 3.5, but maybe you looked at that and said it was 3.4. Okay, so it doesn't matter, but what matters is that in every measurement you make, you need to have all of the known digits plus one estimated. It's also important that you only have one estimated digit. So for example, you could not say that that is 3.52 meters because that includes two estimated digits, and this is not okay. Okay, so when you make an estimation, you can't be that accurate. So you are only allowed one estimated digit. Alright, so any number, you can have two types of numbers. Alright, you can have decimal numbers, or you can have non-decimal numbers. So any number you ever deal with is either going to have a decimal or not going to have a decimal. So the first one that we're going to talk about is decimal numbers. Alright, the rule when you have a number that has a decimal in it is that you count sig figs from the first non-zero number moving from left to right. So moving from left to right. So for example, if I had the number 2.55, alright, I count from left to right. Okay, so that's the direction I count, and I start counting at the first non-zero number. So I look at the farthest left number, that's 2. Okay, that's a non-zero number, so I start counting. That's number 1, and I keep counting until I'm done. This is number 2, and this is number 3. So this number right here has 3 sig figs. Alright, I'm going to give you another example. So this number is going to be 0.025. Okay, I start counting from left to right again. But I start counting at the first non-zero number. So this is a 0, so I don't count that. Okay, don't count that. This one's a 0, so I don't count that. I start counting at the first non-zero number, which is 2, and I count until I'm done. So this number has 2 sig figs. Alright, I'm going to go through a few more examples. If I have 100.25, this number contains a decimal, so I'm going to count from left to right. I'm going to start counting at the first non-zero number, and I'm going to keep counting. Alright, once you start counting, you can't stop. Okay, so this is my first non-zero number, 1. I keep counting, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this number has 5 sig figs. Another example is going to be 12.500. So I just said that once you start counting, you don't stop. So again, we're going in this direction from left to right. And I'm starting at the first non-zero number, which is right here. Okay, that's number 1. This is 2. This is 3. And I don't stop counting until I'm all the way done. This is 4. And this is 5. So this number has 5 sig figs also. Alright, I'm going to give you another example. Let's see, 0.005000. Okay, there's a lot of zeros in here, but again, there's a decimal, so we count from left to right. I start counting at the first non-zero number. Okay, so I don't count this one, I don't count this one, I don't count this one. Here's my first non-zero number, so that's 1. And I don't stop counting until I'm all the way down. So this is 2, and this is 3. So this number has 3 sig figs. So the other type of number that you can have is a non-decimal number. My pen isn't working. Okay, non-decimal number. And the rule for a non-decimal number is that you count from the first non-zero number but this time you count from right to left. So you're going to count in this direction. Alright, so an example of a non-decimal number would be 135. Okay, you count from right to left, first non-zero number. Okay, this is a non-zero number, so that's number 1. This is number 2, and this is number 3. Okay, so this number 135 has 3 significant figures. Alright, now let's look at the number 100. Okay, it's a non-decimal number, so we count from right to left, but we start counting at the first non-zero number, so we don't count this one, we don't count this one. This is our first non-zero number, and it's just 1. Alright, so 100 has 1 significant figure. Oops. 1 sig fig. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few more examples. If I had 10,500. Okay, there's no decimal in that number, so I count from right to left. And I start counting at the first non-zero number. So I don't count this, don't count this. Here's my first non-zero number. So that's 1. And I keep counting until I'm done. 2, 3. This number has 3 sig figs. Okay, now I don't want you to get confused. I'm not crossing these out because they are not there. I'm just crossing them out, meaning that they don't count when we're counting sig figs. Another example, 350. Again, it's a non-decimal number. I count in this direction. First non-zero number, so I don't count the 0. This is 1. This is 2. So this has 2 sig figs. If I have 17,500, okay, I count from right to left. First, start counting at the first non-zero number, so I don't count that one, don't count that one. Here's my first non-zero number, that's 1. This is number 2. this is number 3. Okay, so this one has 3 sig figs. Now, one way to help you remember which direction you need to count, you can just think of a map of the United States, and all you need to really remember is that the Pacific Ocean is on the left-hand side and the Atlantic Ocean is on the right-hand side. So how you remember this is if a decimal is present, so if a decimal is present, you start at the Pacific Ocean. So in other words, you start at this side and you count to that side. Okay, in other words, you count from left to right. Alright, so if a decimal is present, you start from the Pacific Ocean or from the left and you count to the right towards the Atlantic Ocean. Alright, if a decimal is absent, then you start at the Atlantic Ocean and you count to the Pacific Ocean. In other words, you start on the right and you count to the left. Alright, so again, if a decimal is present, you count from left to right or from Pacific to Atlantic, and if a decimal is absent, you count from Atlantic to Pacific or right to left. So that's just one way to help you remember the direction. We will do more examples in class, but that is all that you need to know for this lesson.